Most people think a home security system without monthly fees means you're cutting corners on protection. Here's the reality. You're just refusing to rent your own safety. I'm Chelsea Miller, and I've spent years testing cameras, sensors, and hubs that work entirely offline. No subscriptions, no cloud uploads, no surveillance capitalism. What I've learned is that the technical barriers aren't there to protect you. They're there to protect recurring revenue. You're listening to the Smart Home Setup Podcast. Quick heads up before we get rolling. All the research, testing, and writing you're about to hear comes from real humans who actually use this stuff, but the voice delivering it is AI generated. Just want to be upfront about that. If you've been listening for a while, thanks for coming back. Honestly, it's what keeps this whole thing going. And if you're just finding us, welcome! You're in for a practical one today. We release new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you've got plenty to catch up on if you want. All right, let's jump into it. You don't need a monthly subscription to protect your home. You need a plan. This checklist walks you through every decision point when building a system that operates entirely without cloud fees, data sharing agreements, or the business model where you're the product. Whether you're starting from scratch or migrating away from Ring's latest price hike, we're covering protocol selection, local storage hardware, automation logic, and the privacy gotchas that manufacturers conveniently forget to advertise. I built my first no-fee system back in 2020 after I discovered my so-called smart doorbell was uploading footage to servers I couldn't access. Since then, I've tested more than 40 cameras, sensors, and hubs for true offline capability. This checklist reflects what actually works, not what marketing departments promise. Let's start with the essential hardware components. Before you write a single automation rule, you need devices that can function without phoning home. Not all local storage cameras are created equal. Some still require cloud authentication just to work. Others lock features behind paywalls after the first 30 days. First up, local storage security cameras with onboard recording. Look for cameras with microSD slots or internal storage that function completely without internet access. The Real-Link E1 Zoom, for example, supports around-the-clock recording to microSD and works entirely offline once you've configured it, though initial setup does require temporary Wi-Fi. Check the link below to see the current price. Cameras using RTSP protocol, that's real-time streaming protocol, give you the most flexibility because you control the footage, not the manufacturer. Next, you'll want a network video recorder, or NVR, or a network attached storage device, a NAS. This is your central recording hub. An NVR stores footage from multiple cameras on a local hard drive with no cloud required. I use a Synology DS220 Plus with Surveillance Station, which supports over 20 camera brands and keeps 30 days of continuous footage on a 4 terabyte drive. Latency from motion detection to recording start is typically half a second to a second and a half, depending on camera protocol. Wi-Fi adds an extra 200 to 400 milliseconds compared to wired. Make sure your NVR supports ONVIF, the Open Network Interface Forum, for maximum camera compatibility. Motion sensors are critical, and you want Zigbee or Z-Wave. These trigger recording, lights, and alarms without relying on AI cloud processing. Zigbee sensors, like the Aqara P1 motion sensor, run on a mesh network with 10 to 30 millisecond latency and work through Home Assistant or Hubitat. Check the link below to see the current price. Z-Wave sensors, like the AOTech Tri-Sensor, offer slightly longer range but cost more. Critical point here. Wi-Fi motion sensors usually require cloud accounts even if they claim local operation. Avoid them. Contact sensors for doors and windows are your perimeter defense. Zigbee contact sensors from brands like Aqara, Sonoff, or Third Reality cost around $10 to $15 each and report open or closed states in under 50 milliseconds on a healthy mesh network. Z-Wave sensors from Ecolink or AMTech offer better wall penetration but require a Z-Wave hub. Here's an automation logic example. If door sensor state equals open and alarm mode equals armed, then trigger siren and start recording all cameras. These sensors have a 1 to 3 year battery life. Replace them proactively to avoid false negatives. Your local control hub is the brain. Home Assistant running on a Raspberry Pi 4 or dedicated hardware gives you complete local control over Zigbee, Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, and Matter 1.4 devices. Habitat is more plug and play, but less flexible. Key compatibility requirement: your hub must support the protocols your devices use. If you buy Zigbee sensors, you need a Zigbee radio, either built-in or via USB dongle like the Sonoff Zigbee 3.0 USB dongle Plus. A siren or alarm with local triggering is essential. A 110 decibel siren wired to a smart relay, Zigbee or Z-Wave, gives you audible alerts without a monitoring service. The key is local trigger logic. Your hub sends the on command directly to the relay. No cloud involved. Expected latency: 50 to 200 milliseconds from trigger event to siren activation. I use a Shelly 1 relay, which is Wi-Fi but fully local via Home Assistant integration, connected to a 12-volt piezo siren. Fallback behavior: if the hub fails, the siren won't trigger. Consider a standalone, battery-powered alarm as backup. Backup power matters more than most people think. Your security system is useless during a power outage unless you plan for it. A 1500 VA UPS keeps a Raspberry Pi hub and NVR running for 4 to 6 hours. Critical: your router and modem also need UPS power if you want remote access during outages. Test your UPS runtime annually. Battery capacity degrades faster than you think. Wired Ethernet connections where possible. Wi-Fi cameras drop packets, especially under 2.4 gigahertz congestion. Wired connections reduce latency, typically 5 to 15 milliseconds versus 50 to 200 milliseconds for Wi-Fi, and eliminate dropout risk. If you must use Wi-Fi, dedicate a separate VLAN for security devices and disable cloud access at the router level. Now let's talk about protocol and compatibility planning. This is where most DIY systems fall apart. You buy a Zigbee sensor and a Z-Wave hub, then wonder why they won't talk to each other. Protocol incompatibility is not a bug. It's by design. Here's what you need to verify before you buy. Confirm your hub supports every protocol your devices use. A Home Assistant hub with a Zigbee USB dongle supports Zigbee devices. Add a Z-Wave USB stick, like the AOTech Z-Stick 7, to support Z-Wave. Matter devices require a Matter-compatible controller, an Apple HomePod, Google Nest Hub, or Home Assistant with Matter.1 integration. You cannot mix protocols without the appropriate radio hardware. Verify each device's local control claim. Manufacturers lie constantly. A camera marketed as local storage may still require a cloud account for live view or push notifications. Before buying, search the product name plus Home Assistant or the product name plus offline mode to see if users have confirmed true local operation. I maintain a spreadsheet of tested devices. Many so-called local cameras still require initial cloud registration. Looking at you, Wise. Check firmware lockdown policies. Some manufacturers push firmware updates that disable local features to force cloud adoption. Reolink and Amcrest historically respect local control, but Eufy, after their 2022 security breach, locked down several features. When possible, disable auto updates and research each firmware version before installing. Yes, this is tedious. Yes, it's necessary. Map your mesh network topology. Zigbee and Z-Wave use mesh routing. Each powered device acts as a repeater. Battery-powered sensors do not repeat signals. You need at least one powered device, a smart plug or light switch, within 30 feet of each sensor for reliable communication. Fallback behavior: if a sensor loses mesh connection, it stops reporting. Your automation logic should include: if sensor last seen greater than 5 minutes, then send alert to catch dead sensors before an intruder does. Understand Matter's current limitations as of 2026. Matter.1.4 promises universal compatibility, but cameras aren't fully supported yet, only basic sensors, lights, and locks. If you're building around Matter, verify each device's specific capabilities. Matter device checking is still a manual process. Thread, Matter's preferred network layer, offers better power efficiency and lower latency than Zigbee, but device selection is limited. Document your device MAC addresses and firmware versions. When troubleshooting, you'll need to identify which device is flooding your network or which firmware broke local control. Keep a spreadsheet. Future you will be grateful. Plan for non-interoperable ecosystems. Ring doesn't play with Arlo. Nest doesn't play with Eufy. If you want cross-brand automation, everything must route through your local hub. Example automation that works: a Zigbee contact sensor triggers an RTSP camera to record via Home Assistant. Example that doesn't work: a Ring doorbell triggering an Arlo floodlight. Both are cloud-dependent ecosystems that don't communicate. Moving on to storage and network configuration. Your footage is only as secure as the network it lives on. Cloud companies want you to believe local storage is complicated. It's not. It just requires planning they don't profit from. Calculate storage needs based on camera count and quality. A 1080p camera recording around the clock generates approximately 60 to 90 gigabytes per week, depending on compression, H.264 versus H.265. A 4-camera system needs roughly 1.5 terabytes for 30 days of footage. Automation logic for space management. If storage used greater than 80%, then delete oldest footage. Most NVR software handles this automatically, but verify it works. Isolate security devices on a separate VLAN. If a camera gets compromised, and they do because firmware vulnerabilities are common, you don't want it accessing your laptop or NAS. Create a security VLAN with no internet access and strict firewall rules. Your hub bridges the VLAN to trigger recordings without exposing devices. This requires a managed switch and basic networking knowledge, worth the learning curve. Disable UPnP and close unnecessary ports. Universal plug-and-play is a security nightmare. Manually forward only the ports you need, typically 443 for Home Assistant remote access via VPN. Never expose your NVR or cameras directly to the internet. That's how botnets are born. If you need remote access, use Tailscale or WireGuard VPN. Implement automatic backup to a second location. Your NVR footage is worthless if someone steals the NVR. I run a nightly rsync job that copies critical footage to a hidden Raspberry Pi in the attic. Latency isn't an issue for backups. Run them during low activity hours, 3 to 5 a.m. Test your network's bandwidth ceiling. Streaming multiple 1080p cameras simultaneously consumes bandwidth, around 4 to 8 megabits per second per camera. If your router can't handle it, footage stutters and motion detection fails. Run a bandwidth test with all cameras recording to verify your network can handle peak load. Gigabit Ethernet between cameras and NVR eliminates this bottleneck. Set up alert redundancy with local push notifications via Gotify or NTFY. Self-hosted notification services like Gotify, which runs on your local network, or NTFY, which can run locally or use their free server, send alerts directly to your phone via app. Automation example. If door sensor state equals open and alarm armed equals true, then send Gotify alert front door opened. Latency typically under 500 milliseconds on local network. Monitor device health and battery levels. Your home security no monthly fee checklist isn't complete until you've automated health monitoring. If sensor battery less than 20%, then send alert is basic, but add if sensor last seen greater than 12 hours, then send alert to catch dead sensors. Zigbee and Z-Wave devices report battery levels inconsistently. Verify yours do before relying on it. Now, automation rules and trigger logic. Hardware means nothing without intelligent automation. This is where you define when cameras record, when sirens sound, and what happens when something breaks. Define armed and disarmed states with physical triggers. Use a Zigbee button or NFC tag to toggle alarm modes. Cloud-dependent geofencing stops working when your phone's GPS acts up. Example logic. If NFC tag scanned equals disarm tag, then set alarm mode disarmed and silence alerts. Physical triggers don't fail when the internet drops. Implement progressive alert escalation. Not every motion event is an intruder. Multi-stage logic. If motion detected and alarm armed, then start recording and wait 10 seconds. And if door sensor state equals open, then trigger siren and send emergency alert. This prevents false alarms from tree shadows while catching real break-ins. Fine-tune your wait times based on false positive rates. Create camera-specific recording rules. Constant recording eats storage and makes finding events harder. Targeted recording. If motion detected and time greater than sunset, then record camera front door, duration equals 120 seconds. Daytime motion near a busy street? Ignore it. Nighttime motion? Record for 2 minutes. Adjust thresholds based on your environment. Build fallback behaviors for device failures. What happens when your internet drops? When a sensor battery dies? When the Zigbee mesh collapses? Resilient automation. If hub offline equals true, then trigger local siren. This requires a standalone alarm with its own PIR sensor. Test your fallbacks. Power down your router and verify backup systems activate. Set up notification filtering to avoid alert fatigue. Dozens of daily notifications train you to ignore them, including the one that matters. Smart filtering. If motion detected and time greater than 10 p.m. and alarm armed, then send immediate alert. Else, log event only. Reserve high priority alerts for genuine threats. Implement sensor cross-verification for critical events. Single sensors can fail or false trigger. Redundant logic. If motion detected living room and contact sensor open window, then confirm intrusion equals true, then trigger alarm. This reduces false positives from pets or moving curtains while catching coordinated entry points. Schedule automatic system tests. Your security system is only as reliable as your last test. Weekly health check automation. If day of week equals Sunday and time equals 2 p.m., then test siren, duration equals 5 seconds, and send report. Battery levels, last seen times, storage used. Latency expectations. Zigbee and Z-Wave sensor checks complete in under 2 seconds. Wi-Fi devices take 5 to 10 seconds. Let's get into privacy and data control verification. This is why you're building a no-fee system, to escape the surveillance business model. But local storage doesn't automatically mean private. You need to actively block data leakage. Audit network traffic with Wireshark or Glasswire. Power up each device and watch where it tries to connect. I caught my so-called offline-capable doorbell attempting to phone home to AWS servers every 30 seconds, even with cloud features disabled. Log traffic for 24 hours. If you see repeated connection attempts to manufacturer servers, the device isn't truly local. Return it. Block manufacturer domains at the router level. Create firewall rules blocking your security devices from accessing the internet entirely. Whitelist only firmware update servers, and only when you choose to update. Critical exception. Some cameras require one-time cloud activation before going offline. Research this before buying. It's a deal breaker if you're air-gapping your network. Verify encryption for local footage storage. If someone steals your NVR, can they access the footage? Enable full disk encryption on your NAS or NVR. Home Assistant supports encrypted backups. Most consumer NVRs don't encrypt by default. You have to enable it manually. This adds negligible latency, under 5 milliseconds, to recording operations. Disable remote access unless absolutely necessary. Remote viewing is convenient, but every open connection is an attack vector. If you need it, use a VPN tunnel, WireGuard, or Tailskill, rather than exposing your system to the internet via port forwarding. Cloud-free viability score, impact. Remote access via manufacturer app equals automatic score reduction. VPN-only access equals no penalty. Review privacy policies for every device. Yes, really. Especially the "we may share data with third parties" clauses. If the policy mentions improving services with usage data or personalized experiences, they're collecting telemetry. Manufacturers often bury the opt-out process in firmware settings or require contacting support. Document which devices leak data even when local-only mode is enabled. Implement physical camera privacy controls. Motorized privacy shutters or removable lens covers prevent accidental or coerced recording. Some cameras, like the Topo C200, have physical shutter buttons. Others require smart plug cutoff. Automation example. If home mode equals occupied, then power off indoor cameras. Latency. Instant for smart plug cutoff, 2 to 3 seconds for motorized shutters. Test GDPR-style data deletion. Contact the manufacturer and request all data associated with your account. See what they have. If they resist or claim they don't store user data while clearly logging events, document it. This reveals their actual data practices versus marketing claims. I've done this with over 15 companies. Only 3 provided complete data exports. Here's your final check before you go. You've selected hardware, planned protocols, configured storage, written automation rules, and locked down privacy. Here's your final home security no monthly fee checklist before you call the system operational. Every device operates without internet access, tested by physically disconnecting the router. All sensors report to your local hub within expected latency. Zigbee and Z-Wave under 100 milliseconds. Wi-Fi under 500 milliseconds. Automation rules have been tested with manual triggers, arm and disarm cycles, forced motion events. Storage capacity covers your minimum retention period, typically 14 to 30 days for around-the-clock recording. Backup power keeps critical systems online during outages, hub, NVR, router on UPS. Network traffic audit confirms 0 unauthorized cloud connections. 24-hour Wireshark capture reviewed. Physical security prevents NVR and hub theft or tampering. Locked closet, hidden location, backup storage off-site. Alert notifications reach you via non-cloud channels, local push service, SMS gateway, email via self-hosted SMTP. Fallback behaviors handle single-point failures. Dead sensor alerts, hub offline triggers standalone alarm. System health monitoring checks run automatically. Weekly battery and connectivity reports. You've documented firmware versions and rollback procedures, in case updates break local functionality. Remote access uses VPN tunneling, not port forwarding. 0 direct internet exposure. Missing any of these? Your system has a weak point. Address it before trusting your security to the setup. Let's hit some frequently asked questions. Can I build a no-fee home security system without technical experience? Yes, but expect a learning curve steeper than what cloud systems market. Basic setups using pre-configured hubs like Hubitat or a Home Assistant Blue require minimal networking knowledge. You're mostly clicking through setup wizards and following device pairing instructions. Advanced features like VLAN isolation, custom automation logic, or network traffic auditing require networking fundamentals. Start simple. 1 local storage camera, 1 motion sensor, basic recording rules. Add complexity as you learn. The technical barrier is front-loaded. Once configured, maintenance is minimal compared to subscription services that arbitrarily change features or pricing. How reliable are no-fee security systems compared to professionally monitored services?
Hardware reliability is comparable. Same cameras, same sensors. The difference is response. Professional monitoring dispatches authorities automatically, while DIY systems notify you, then you call 911. For pure intrusion detection, local systems often outperform cloud-dependent alternatives because there's no internet outage point of failure. Critical limitation, no monitoring company will accept alerts from DIY systems. So if you're unconscious or away from your phone, no one's responding. Hybrid solutions exist. Some companies, like Noonlight, offer pay-per-use monitoring without monthly contracts, bridging the gap between full DIY and traditional subscriptions. Latency is actually better on local systems. My Zigbee motion sensors trigger recording in under 100 milliseconds, while cloud-based Ring doorbells average 3 to 8 seconds from button press to notification. What happens to my security system when the internet goes down? Depends entirely on your hardware choices. This is why the Home Security No Monthly Fee checklist emphasizes true local operation. Systems built on Home Assistant with Zigbee or Z-Wave devices operate completely independently of internet connectivity. Sensors still trigger, cameras still record to local storage, sirens still sound, automations still run. The only functionality you lose is remote access and cloud-based notifications. Wi-Fi cameras that support local storage often stop functioning entirely without internet. They authenticate against cloud servers even for local viewing. Test this explicitly. Unplug your router and verify every automation still executes. Your system should be internet optional, not internet dependent. Here are my final thoughts. Building a home security no monthly fee checklist forces you to confront an uncomfortable truth. Most smart security is designed to extract recurring revenue, not protect your home. The technical barriers aren't accidents, they're business model defenses. But once you cross that initial setup threshold, you own your security. No price hikes, no feature removals, no footage sold to data brokers or law enforcement without warrants, no company shutting down servers and bricking your hardware. I rebuilt my entire system in 2020 after discovering my Ring doorbell uploaded over 4,000 data packets daily, even with privacy mode enabled. The migration to Home Assistant, Zigbee sensors, and local storage cameras took 3 weekends. 5 years later, I've spent $0 on subscriptions and maintained complete control over every byte of footage. The surveillance economy bets you'll choose convenience over autonomy. This checklist is your blueprint for refusing that trade. Cloud-free viability score for complete no-fee systems, 9 out of 10. The only deduction is for initial setup complexity and the lack of professional monitoring integration. Everything else, recording, automation, privacy, works better without the cloud. That wraps up this episode of the Smart Home Setup Podcast. Thanks for spending your time with me today. New episodes come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so there's always something new around the corner. If you found this helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star rating and write a quick review. It actually matters because that's how other people who are looking for this kind of info end up finding the show. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe or follow so you get notified the second a new episode drops. I'll catch you in the next one.